Welcome to Instructional Design from the Ground Up. Hey, we got something cool for you today. Kristin Caldwell is here with Denise and I, and we're going to talk about something that I think all of us face, which is this issue of are we going to be independent contractors or are we searching for W-2 work? Yeah, exactly, Chris, right? Throw your hands up because this is a big deal. So I've done some research. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you. But just a disclaimer up front, when we talk about finance and different things, remember this is all individual. So when we say this or that might pertain to you, it may or may not. And we would expect and encourage you to get your own financial advice on these things. If it needs to be, get your CPA or talk to somebody that really knows what they're doing as opposed to just us expressing opinions. But Denise, I know you go through this. You constantly go through it. Chris, you're going through it. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through it. So, Denise, Chris, I mean, there's this pressure, there's this stress, right? What's the right thing to do?
It all starts with the very beginning, though, and getting the idea that I might want to do it, right? That's the tease right there. It would be easy if you didn't even consider it.
Well, I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice, and we'll acknowledge that. You know, it's okay. We get that. We'll place that in our minds at that point. But I've been fortunate, and I think both of you have been fortunate enough to have opportunities to make those decisions. And just as a background, I did research, and I'm going to look off my notes here because I don't want to mess this up. But about a third of payroll right now is independent contractors, is 1099. I didn't think it was that high, but it is. So that means 2/3 are traditional W-2, a third are independents and 1099s. And there's all kind of 1099s. We're not going to get into that stuff, all kind of W-2s. But gosh, Denise, you just went through this, right? I mean, what kind of stuff goes through your head?
Yes. So I ended up starting an LLC because I do educational consultant is what I would call it under my production company, Sunny Bee Productions. And so what I do is I had to make choices of, okay, do I want to be W-2'd? And for those who may not know what W-2 means, it's being an employee for somebody. You are usually an at-will employee. And a W-2 means that at the end of the year, the employer is actually taking the taxes out. You're an employee of that company. And so there's pros and cons to that. Then there on the other side, which we will be talking about, are 1099s, which means you are an independent contractor. And so in this case, I'm an independent contractor. My company is an independent contractor for organizations that hire me as a contractor to do work for them, to do instructional design work, facilitation work. And there's a lot of pros and cons to that as well. So I know I'm really excited to talk with both of you about this topic because I think a lot of folks out there who may be watching this may be in a predicament now where they are walking that kind of tightrope of, should I go W-2? Should I choose to be an independent contractor? What does all of that look like for me? And so I think it's going to be good to go through some of those things of what we've discovered and maybe our thought processes of going through, should we do this? Should we not do this?
Yeah. So, Chris, what's your experience with this? What are you thinking about this? Because we Zoomed a couple of weeks ago, and this is the one thing we talked about for a while, was going through this decision point and trying to get to some logical conclusion about what's best for you or me or whoever's doing this. And gosh, I know. Look at that smile on your face. You got some history with this, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. When I talked to you a couple of weeks ago, that's when I first was, I don't even think I was considering it, to be honest with you, Dr. Chuck. I think at that point I was still looking for the full-time work. And like we discussed, it's the security. You know, it's the security of the W-2. It's the security of the healthcare. It's the security of the, hopefully 401k or 403b, maybe perhaps, depending on who you work for, or a pension. And now it's, handling all of that yourself. I mean, that's just one part of it, right? So you start thinking about that. Oh my goodness. And do I need to hire an accountant? Do I need to hire an attorney? I've never had an accountant or attorney, by the way. Okay.
Get both.
I
Get
don't know
both.
who does. Who does? I
I
guess
have
independent
both.
contractors. Okay. See? There you go. And as I'm researching this, I'm going, oh my goodness, what do I need for this? But it is a huge step to the security part of it, I think, is the first part. No doubt.
I mean, I can agree about the security part. So I've had this conversation with my husband so many times because my father made me very, very, very focused on, you need to have good health benefits. And so for most of my adult life, that is what I've lived is, okay, I have, my 403B, working for an educational institution, which I still do. I'm still W-2'd from an employer's perspective. So I'm actually doing both things at this point. But there will come a time when I need to decide W-2 or 1099, depending on what happens in life. So life throws many curves. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, let me point out 3 things that my research showed that you should think about. First, obviously, is the tax implications. You have to think about this. And at this point in my life, I am both W-2 and 1099. And I really appreciate that because it allows me to write things off and do different things. So my royalties are always 1099. The contracting work is generally 1099. But both university faculty positions are W-2 positions. So I have the best of both worlds. And I have come to really appreciate the benefits of that in tax sense because I can write off things that I can't write off otherwise. And I don't write off much. I don't do home office and the rest of it. But that's something you talk to a CPA about. But the second thing that we have to think about is autonomy and authority. So when you're an independent contractor, you have a whole different relationship, not only with an employer, but with work groups and with HR and all these other things. And how much autonomy are you happy with or comfortable with? And I'll be honest, in the beginning, the autonomy kind of got to me, because I was very used to a very structured world where I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to think about getting a 1099 check and then withholding at least a third of it or find it at the end of the year and all the other things that go with that. So you got the tax, you got autonomy and authority, you've got benefits and job security. And these days, what's job security? I'm not even sure anymore. So, we can talk about that, but also misclassifications. So sometimes we're actually in the wrong place. We should be W-2 and we're paid as independents and vice versa. I don't know how much you want to go into that, but I think the first 3, we talked a little bit about tax, but what do you feel about autonomy and authority? How do you like being an independent contractor?
I'm looking forward to it, really.
Why did I think that would be the case, Chris?
You said I could be in charge? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Tell me what to do. I would love it. I don't like thinking.
My instructional design career has been based on that. So I think I'm set up pretty well for independent contracting. While I was in the program with you, Dr. Chuck, I was working for an organization where I was a director of education and development, and I was designing all of the employee-based programs for the organization by myself, of course, with some collaboration. Yeah. And then moving into another organization that I worked for, I had to be confident to talk to CEOs, and chief operating officers and heads of HR. And I think that that's part of building your confidence for that autonomy and taking control. That was something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed doing that whole front end side of our work of connecting with the stakeholders and the people who are in charge. And you said it, Dr. Chuck, we're the subject matter experts in instructional design. And always remembering that about our work is super important. And I think that allows us to be autonomous in our work and also be confident and take control over the situation.
I think a lot of times we wear a lot of hats as 1099ers versus, depending on your situation, if you are W-2'd, I do wear a lot of hats with my W-2 job as well. But speaking about pros and cons and things of that sort with 1099 people who are trying to decide which way to go, realize that when you are 1099, you're an independent contractor, you are going to have to wear many hats. And so you can either do that or subcontract that work out, meaning you don't want to deal with marketing. You got to market yourself when you are 1099. In order to get clients, in order to keep them and maintain them, you really do need some marketing skills, how to sell yourself as that independent contractor, because without those kinds of skills, it's going to be really hard to get that work, to get that consistent work. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things for folks who maybe don't have that salesy or that marketing type of background, that confidence in that. But we could do a whole course on that, because I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed and maybe a little vulnerable about that part. And maybe that's what keeps people from actually doing this.
I think that's a good point, because I'm not a marketer. I mean, you've both known me for many years. I'm horrible at promoting myself. In fact, I won't do it. And I always wanted to fall back on, let my work speak for itself. But to be honest, that's not enough. And maybe my work doesn't have a voice, so yeah, I think that's two good points. You both are hitting this on the head. And the other thing that I think about, and I was thinking about it, Chris, when you were talking about your experience with this, is how many times have internal voices said something that nobody listens to, and an outside voice comes in, and obviously they're now geniuses. Well, look what Chuck or Denise or Chris said. Why aren't we doing that? Even though all of you suggested we do that 5 years ago. So there's that part of being an independent contractor that I've always kind of enjoyed. I love going in and being brilliant, saying the same things everybody else has already said. And, you go out and you think about, that's part of this sauce too, this weird sauce of which decision do I make about this? And I just think these are great points. So you got this whole authority and autonomy, you got the taxes, benefits and job security. Okay, if you're in a position where you don't need either, okay, well, that makes you a little bit more independent. If you don't need the health care because of a partner, or, you're my age and you don't pay for it anyway, or, whatever situation you're in, but you got to do this. And I don't know about you two, but I think somebody would be really well advised to get a spreadsheet and put all the pluses and minuses for their specific situation, pluses for 1099, minuses for 1099, same for W-2. And I've done this with decisions before, and I've always found it helpful. Put it in a spreadsheet and say, okay, you're going to make X number of dollars a year. This is how it comes out differently if you're 1099, because you have self-employment tax, you've got other things that may, and I say may because your situation may be different, but there are financial differences. And if you're not comfortable with exploring that and actually documenting it, and I would say document it before you make a big decision. Know what you're getting into. And the other thing I would say, and what you two think about this, is I always recommend that someone have at least 6 months of whatever they need for cash flow before they go independent, if they're now feeling comfortable with W-2 or whatever they're doing. So that's one thing that I struggled with, is what if I don't make any money? If I now have no income? I've been fortunate that's never been the case, but I did have 6 months back. So if I did nothing for 6 months, I still wouldn't have to worry about paying my bills.
Well, I'll tell you, I had experience with that. I was glad I had a full-time job still, because one of my big clients for my LLC did not have the budget this year to hire me to do the work that we had planned I was going to do. So that was a big chunk of cash that was taken away from me as an independent contractor. And so that happens. And that's why having some reserve, or having maybe a different form of a stream of income at first might be a good idea for you. It depends on your idea. So one of the things that I just want to backtrack for 1 second about the idea of, I loved what you said, Chuck, about having a pro and con type of sheet. And this day with AI technology, it's wonderful because I look at AI as a brainstorming partner, and it helps me to kind of think about things I'm not thinking about. And so this day and age with everything that's going on with the federal government and such, with contracts and with jobs, people I care about, we've done a lot of pro and cons using AI to help us think through things like, okay, what if this scenario happens? What if this scenario happens? You can put that pro and con list into an AI, generative AI, and ask it to come up with the pros and cons of each circumstance, and actually really flesh it out, like massage what it's saying and flesh it out, ask for more and dig deeper. And when you are an independent contractor, you may find yourself in a silo. I know with the work I do, I am the only one who's doing that work for this company, for these organizations. I don't have a team like I do with my W-2. I don't have a team to say, hey, guys, let's meet on chat on Teams or whatnot and put this, let's massage this idea together. I don't have that. So I've actually used AI to help me come up with, okay, this is the situation. Give me some ideas. Let's think outside of the box. And I'll take some of it. Some of it's trash, of course, but some of it I'm like, there's a possibility there. So it's just thinking creatively when you have your own team, when you are your own team, is good. The other thing you can do as an independent contractor, if you do like having that brainstorming type of partner, but maybe with a real person, you create a mastermind alliance with people that you respect and trust, and maybe you meet up once a month and you all bring your, like, hey, this is what's going on with me, and then you kind of walk through that and give each other ideas so that you have that feeling of a team without actually being part of a W-2 team.
I love that idea. That's definitely something that I've thought about in terms of going as an independent contractor. You don't have a team to work with. And I love that collaboration. I love bouncing ideas off of somebody else. But you're absolutely right. Having a mastermind group is super important. Thankfully, I already do. All around the world, I have people that I can contact and jump on with, and people that I'm helping right now with their training and saying, hey, this is what I think, or this is, have you thought about that? So you're right. Having a group to connect with is important. AI is something I used right at the very beginning. And it has been a fantastic tool to help me understand the world of 1099 and independent contracting, even to the point of, do I need to have an LLC? Like what you were talking about, Denise. Do I need an LLC to be a 1099? I don't know. So AI was helping me understand all of that. And I was learning about things like registered agents and wow. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And the EIN number and all this other stuff, right?
Yep.
So,
and like Chuck said earlier, we want to disclaim this, that put a disclaimer out there that this is an individual decision. What we're saying here is by no means advice. We're just talking through what we do. I personally have an LLC. I feel like I benefit from that. It does cost to have an LLC. I have to pay annually a certain fee. I have to pay property tax on the LLC itself, certain things for fire tax, county tax, things of that sort. And then of course there's also a CPA that has to do that business portion. They have to do that. I don't have that knowledge, so I just contract that stuff out and let the experts do it. However, I realize a lot of benefits having an LLC. It's first asset protection, depending on your situation. But secondly, I get to write off. I do write off my home office, a portion of my home, because it is my office space for that. I write off everything I buy for that business, every piece of technology, which with this show alone, Chuck and I are in the thousands with all this equipment that we buy and tried and this and that over the years. But anytime I have if I meet with a client, mileage, meal, all that stuff is written off. If I go to a conference, all of that is written off with travel, meals, hotel, lodging. You can't do that if you don't have a business, from what I understand. I could be wrong on that. If there's an accountant or CPA listening and I'm wrong, go ahead and put it in the comments. But there's a lot of advantage to that, keeping that separate from my personal assets. I'll just say that.
How about for you, Dr. Chuck?
Nope. I thought about it, and I do it different ways.
Mm.
I have a bond, so if I get sued or something goes south, I have that to fall back on in terms of, if nothing else, then we can look at that.
Mm-hmm.
My accountant has never recommended it for my situation because I just have so many different pieces of the pie. I mean, just to be honest, my accountant sends me 85 pages of forms every year. So when I get the package, we have to weigh it and see how much I made this year by weight. And it's not because I make a lot of money. It's not like that. It's just I've got so many fingers in different things. And so then you add in all the stuff that you got going, whether you sell a house or you do this or you do that, and all this accounting stuff, and it all plays together. And that's the thing that I never put together until I had really competent help with accounting was, Chuck, you got one thing in the end, but you got 50 things on this end. And we need to find the best resonance for all of these things. And part of that, obviously, was my choice to be an independent contractor in certain situations. So I think this is really powerful. And as we go through this, I hope what we leave you with is make an educated decision, make an informed decision, talk to people. You can talk to us if you want to. We're kind of boring, at least I am. But we're going to throw stuff out here from our experience. Doesn't mean it works for you. It means it's what we went through. And if I could catalog all the mistakes I made doing all of this, maybe that would be another video. I'll just sit here and list the 100 mistakes I've made doing things like this. But let's all of us go around and just say, what is that one piece of advice? And Chris, what would you say? Because I think you're right on the lip here.
Yeah, I am. My decision to go 1099, I feel like it's been hanging there all along. I feel like it's been like talking to me, and it's, you gave me the confidence when I talked to you, Dr. Chuck, and encouraged me to just, go that path and at least give it a shot. So my word of advice is definitely talk to people who have been there before, like I did with you. It didn't make a decision until I talked to somebody that I trusted.
Yeah.
And then what instructional designers always do is research. What I love doing. I mean, the candle's been burning at night as I'm researching this. I do have an LLC name. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. So I don't know. I mean,
what else is there? This is technically,
all you need is a name, right?
It's officially unofficial, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the word of advice is always, as an instructional designer, just be yourself. Research and ask questions, just like we always do.
Perfect, Chris. Denise, what's your one piece of advice?
I'm a planner. Plan the plan, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you have not thought through as many variables as there are going to be. So what I mean by that is, do you have a plan in place to save into a retirement account? Because if you're not working for a company, you're not going into a 401k or 403b or a pension plan. You need to do this on your own, and it's really important to save for retirement. Make sure you're saving. Make sure you have the ability to save. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give to you. And secondly is get some of those marketing skills in place. If you don't have them already, there are so many courses for free that you can take on Udemy, Coursera, all these places, or for a nominal fee. Get some marketing experience, learn about how you can get yourself and sell yourself as an independent contractor, as an instructional designer out there making it in the world by yourself. Get a mastermind alliance, get a core group of people together that you trust, that you can go to when you have questions, and vice versa. Be part of that dynamic team. That's gonna really help you out in the long run. So plan all of these variables, plan for them, and this way you're making a very educated decision.
Well, that's 2 bits of sound advice and then my advice. And I'm just sitting there. I'm going to take a personal point of privilege for a second. And I just want to say, it just makes me smile to look at two of my former students in grad school and how terrific they've done. And, they're both 7 times better at any of this than I am. And I just love seeing my students be successful and go on and be in situations where these are the kind of decisions that they're making. You've reached a point of professionalism and achievement that, okay, these are the next order questions that I need to answer and things that I need to do. And I'm just so darn proud of both of you. And I hope you'll leave us in, Denise, because it really is why I teach and why I do what I do, why we do this channel, is to make people have a good day. And as Dr. Cook always said, try your best, Chuck, to give everybody a success every day. And I really try to do that. So now I look at you two and I'm just proud. I'm just really proud.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dr. Chuck. And I really enjoy the work, and I appreciate everything that you've done on the front end. I remember one thing you said in the beginning is that most of us instructional designers are introverts. So when you talk about that marketing, Denise, it does make me sweat. It makes me sweat. So, having your support is really important, and encouragement. I mean, the fact that you are so encouraging really helps. I'll tell you that.
Thank you so much for all of that. Thank you for being here with us, Kristin. I loved this conversation. I really, really enjoyed this. This helped me get some thoughts out of my head too, because sometimes it's really important. And things that have been just sitting there marinating all of a sudden came out, and I'm like, yeah. So thank you for that.
Good.
Chuck, thank you so much for being always inspiring about everything and really helping to educate me, educate others on, pros and cons of things, and just being a really good professional out there in the world, serving others through the work that we do. And thanks, listeners, for tuning into this episode. Please leave some comments. If you have any comments, if there's something that we said that resonated or maybe didn't resonate, however you look at it, go ahead and put it in the comments. We'd love to have some dialogue with you. Take care.